yourselves, and today we're going to be making some awesome gifts for your family and friends with what's inside of these boxes.
Yeah, on this video we have partnered up once again with our good friends at Fish Farm Timber, and they have sent us over these lovely craft boxes. So let's open them up and see what's in them. So as we open up this particular craft box, you've greeted with a lovely information card. As you can see, it's well packaged. So it gives you a couple of ideas on things you can make with a box. Just like to say, check out Fish Farm Timbers again. They're a great little family-owned business, and they can supply you with all sorts of materials that you need for any of your builds.
This is the biggest of the two boxes. And in here, we've got some 15-inch long pieces of wood. This means we can make a bigger gift. I'm thinking a chopping board. What are you thinking, Dad?
Yeah, sounds like a plan, mate.
Yeah?
When you receive the craft box, all the timber inside is rough sawn. So what we need to do first before we can work with it is we'll run it over the jointer to establish a nice, flat, smooth surface. That way, whenever we use any other tools, i.e. like the table saw or mitre saw or any other thing that's got a fence, we can reference that smooth edge against the fence, which will then give us nice, square, true pieces of timber. She's going nowhere. Quick pro tip for you guys: if you ever need to quickly lubricate or wax the surface of your table saw or your jointer, grease-proof paper works perfectly and is a quick, easy way of doing it. So as I'm chewing up this piece of timber on the table saw, just want to let you guys know out there that at the end of the video we will be doing a giveaway on this chopping board, so stick around till the end to see the detail to win this lovely board. So I've now run everything through the table saw, which has resulted in a load of these thin strips. Now that those have been squared up, so what we'll do is we might as well make use of these. So we'll run these through the planer and stick them together and see what we can create with them. So both the oak and the sapele have now been through the planer, and this is what we've managed to yield from the material that we had. So we've got all our thin strips, which was the offcuts of these, and the same on this side. Using the planer allows you to create a really nice uniform piece of timber. Now if I was just to run this through the table saw, you'd end up with some bare marks and some imperfections. So when we come to do the actual glue up, you'll get small voids in between your joints, which won't look very good, and obviously we want to try and eliminate that. So that's why we use the planer. If you're ever going to do a chopping board, planer is the tool for you. Off camera, I've been playing around with the layout, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger each species. So we've got oak, sapele, oak, sapele, sapele, oak, sapele, oak. Because we are going to turn this not into any ordinary chopping board, but we're going to create an end grain chopping board. So I'm quite experienced with end grain chopping boards. I've made quite a few over the years. If you want to see, you know, somewhere up here, I'll put a few on the screen to what I've done in the past. But if you're going to make a chopping board, if you're going to go to all this effort of breaking down the material, end grain chopping boards are the way to go. For me, they give you the opportunity to create the best designs, and they last longer, and they look cooler in my opinion. So let's get these glued up. Now for the most stressful part of the whole build, the glue up, the dreaded glue up. So what I will say is, do yourself a favour when you're doing a chopping board, you want it to remain nice and flat, or even when you're doing any panel for, as an example, make yourself a couple of coils. All this is a straight piece of wood, and I put some packing tape on there, so when we clamp it down on the board, the glue squeeze out doesn't stick itself to that piece, so then we've got a piece of wood stuck to our chopping board that we don't want. Also, do yourself a favour as well, when you make the coils, also make yourself some clamping blocks. Now these blocks lift your sash clamps up off the workbench, which means you can get the coils underneath and get clamps on them. Also, it allows you to do this, and you can slide your end pieces up and down nice and easy without having to lift the clamp up on the bench. As this is a chopping board, this board will be exposed to moisture, so the glue that we need to use needs to be either waterproof or water resistant. Now most people use Titebond 3 because that is water resistant, but I don't have any to hand. I've literally just run out of some. But what I do have, which is also a very good glue, is Gorilla Wood glue. Now this is water resistant, so it should be fine for the job. Like I said, these boards, I don't recommend that you put them in a dishwasher or soak them in water, so they're only going to have minimal exposure to water anyway, so I think this is more than adequate for the job. That's the best glue spreader you'll ever use, the one that you're born with. So we get it just nipped up ever so slightly in the clamps, and then we put the coils on. One on the top. Bottom. I can show you probably the tape facing down, otherwise you're going to end up with a coil glued to your chopping board after all that hard work, which you don't want. See that clamp on there. Get a little bit of tension on it. Clamp on the side. Starts to get a bit fiddly at this point. Fingers want to move on you, but just take your time. I know you're against the clock with the glue, but this glue's good for 20 minutes, and I've been spent maybe about 10 at best so far doing this. Right, so now that this is situated where you want it, you can start really clamping down on it. And then we can also start clamping down on these. Now these sash clamps, you can put a ton, and I mean a ton of pressure. You don't need to, you just need enough for a good amount of squeeze out, because then that indicates that the joints are full. Once you start seeing all this, that's a good sign. If you've got anywhere where you can see where there's maybe not as much squeeze out, tighten the clamps up a little bit more, but you don't want to go too much, because if you tighten it, if you imagine as you put pressure on, it's going to want to make the board flex, bend like that, and then you want to end up with a flat board. These coils will go towards preventing that from happening, but they're not 100% at keeping them flat. So you've just got to be a bit mindful. Make sure your coils are nice and tight. Bit of tension on these big clamps. So at the minute the loads spread across these two arms. That's sandwiching the whole thing together. So we've got a little bit of area here where there isn't much glue squeeze out. So there might be a little bit of a slight bend in that board, or maybe I've not got much glue on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another 2 clamps in the middle, which should give us the squeeze out that we need. And also by putting the clamps on the top. So if you look at the orientation of this clamp, the bar's on the bottom. Put that clamp on the top. This clamp will want to bend the board that way, but this clamp will want to bend the board that way. So hopefully the clamping forces will counteract each other, which will also help in keeping this board nice and flat. Now, if you was watching carefully when I did the glow up, this board here has got no glow on it. And that was intentional to not want that to be all one giant board. I've got two boards here, I've got that board and that board. But I'm just doing it this way so I don't have to use loads of clamps. And these are the only two pair of sash clamps that I've got like this, which help hold the pieces nice and flat. Which, like I said earlier, you want to keep the board as flat as possible. These sash clamps make that a lot easier. If I was just use these F-style clamps, it'd be all over the place. Right, I think. Right, so now I'll put that clamp on. It's relieved tension off that. So just go back to your original clamps and just make sure that, yeah, this one's loosened up as well. Make sure you've got enough tension on both of them. And as I am looking, you can't see from where the camera is, but as I'm looking at this board is perfectly flat to the sash clamps as well, which is also another good indication that this board's flat. So we shall quickly go over it with some blue towel.
Right guys, the glue has had 24 hours to dry, so we're going to take the clamps off and put them through the planer to make them nice and smooth.
They're stuck. Jesus. It appears we've glued the clamps to the board. Do you want to get the mallet?
Yep. Cool.
I'm going to hold the board up and whack it there, yeah? Whack it, yeah, as hard as you can. Harder. Same on the other one.
Is your recording?
Do it with my hand now. There we go. And just like that, we've got two boards ready to go through the planer.
Right, both the chopping boards have been through the planer, but the planer has left some snipe on the chopping board. So we're going to sand it down so there's no gaps when it's blue.
The lad's done a really good job of sanding these down now. He's removed the snipe off the edges that was created by the planer, so we have two perfectly flat surfaces. So when we do the next glue up, there won't be any gaps. So the next step is we need to remove these edges and get them nice and square. So I'm going to be cutting this because the lad's not ready to use the mitre saw yet. He's not there. So take it over to the mitre saw, square the edges up, and then the next step after that will be we'll head over to the table saw and we'll start cutting this into strips ready for the next part of the glue up. boards fresh out the clamps, and I'm not going to lie, obviously you can see a lot of burn marks from when I cut the strips, but there's a couple of little lips. Get your fingernails on them. It's not perfectly flat. So before we do the next round of planing, I'm just going to hit it with the sander to take off those bumps. So the board's now out the clamps, and like I said earlier, we had a couple of areas where there was a couple of lips in between the joints, so I've just gone over it with the sander and knocked those back in preparation for putting this through the planer. Now typically when you do an end grain chopping board, you would have a drum sander to level this surface off. Now I don't have a drum sander, so we're going to use a planer. Now in the woodworking community, using a planer on an end grain chopping board is a big no-no. And the main reason for that is because we're doing an end grain board, all the fibres are orientated in this direction, so they're pointing up like that on the end of the board. So as you pass it through the planer, the head of the planer as it spins through grabs this edge and it'll tear off the edge of the chopping board. It might even do it on the way in as well, so these two faces are prone to getting damaged and chip out. But in this instance we're not bothered about that because I've made this board purposely longer than it needs to be, so we can put it through the planer, get it nice and flat, and then once they get the chip out occurs, we can then square these edges off and remove it, so you're never going to know that the damage happened, but it will result in a nice flat surface. Also on Dad and Lad builds, we do not like to hide our mistakes. Like to be totally transparent, and I've got a couple of issues with this board, let me show you. So if we look closely, when I have clamped this board up, putting pressure on, it's cracked there, and it's also cracked there, and it's also cracked there. But again, like I said, because we're going to be putting this through the planer, these two ends are more than likely going to get damaged in the planer, so we'll be cutting them off anyway. And I don't know if you can tell, it's very difficult to see on camera, but it's almost as if there's a slight bow in this end piece, and these two end pieces are almost bananaed. Now, I think that's because when we sanded them to remove the snipe out the planer, it's ever so slightly removed material off these edges. So as we've clamped it all together, that bend has compounded throughout the whole board, so it's got to the point where on the ends they look a little bit bananaed. It's difficult to see on camera, and it's not obvious in the real world either, but we'll put it through the planer, see how she turns out, and then we can make the decision on how many of these ends we're going to cut off. It's a big board to start off with, to be fair, so we've got room to play around with it. So let's send it through the planer. The board's now been through the planer and it's looking sweet. So that's what I was talking about earlier. If you can see, look at all that chip out. So if you've made a board to the exact dimensions that you want, I don't recommend using this technique because obviously you're going to have a board with rectangles. And you can also see the two cracks that I was talking about from when I've clamped it. So the next step is we're going to remove these edges where it's overlapping, and probably, well, definitely removing that edge. I need to then have a play around with this edge and see how much I want to remove. So what we're going to do next is, obviously we've got some nice sharp edges here that we need to get rid of. We're going to run a chamfer around the edge with a trim router, and then we're going to hit it with a sander. Now, the lad's at school at the minute. I'm working solo on this, so I'll put the edge profile on with a chamfer, and then I said to him I'd let him sand it because he was asking me to, and then once it's sanded up, we'll water pop it, sand it again, and then we'll hit it with a mineral oil, give it a nice lathering up, which will be its protection. And then once the mineral oil has once the board's taken as much mineral oil as it will take, we'll then finish it off with some beeswax. So we've just removed the edge now on the table saw. So now we have a complete sapele border going all the way around this, and I think it looks marvellous because of that adjustment we just made. I've just completed adding all the chamfers to the edge, so it's now soft to the touch. It's not got that horrible sharp edge. So all that's left to do now is to sand this board up through the grits. So like I said earlier, the lad's going to do that. So he will sand it at 120, 180, 240. Then we'll do a water pop, and then he'll do it at 240 again. So the reason we do the water pop, the first time this board comes into contact with any moisture, the moisture or water or whatever it may be will make the grain raise on the board. So when you go to touch it, it'll feel rough and fuzzy. So to prevent that happening, we simulate that first. So we'll sand it through the grits, do the water pop, which will make the grain pop up. We'll then come back and sand it smooth again. So the next time it comes into contact with any moisture, that won't happen. So like I said, boy's going to do the sanding, so over to the boy.
I just finished a long, hard day at work. Where? I'll go to work.
School?
I just finished a long, hard day at school, and now my dad's getting me to work. So, got to sand this. Let's get to it. Right then, we've sanded it. Now it's ready for the water pump. Right, the board has had its water pop, it's dried, and it's been sanded again. So now, we're going to get the oil on it. Let's go.
Still the bloody board. So it's the next morning and the board's had all night to soak up that mineral oil. The boy has selfishly gone to school. I don't know the kids these days, you can't teach them, can you? But he wanted to go to school. Right, so what we're going to do next is apply a generous coating of beeswax and mineral oil board conditioner. If you can pick that up on the camera there. So this was from the Cornish Chopping Board Company, and big shout out to those guys. I literally ordered it on the Saturday and it was here on the Sunday and it was free shipping, so big shout out to those guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a generous coating of this beeswax on the board, lather it on, buff it in, and then wipe it off with a shop towel, and that'll give us that last level of protection that we need to protect this board. Also, beeswax and the mineral oil is food safe, so this is perfect for this application. So let's get some wax on it. As you can see, this stuff goes a long way. I've hardly used any of it. You're going to get quite a lot of applications. On a board this size, I reckon you could probably do about, I don't know, 10, 15 boards out of this. And it was cheap as chips. I think it was about, I don't know, £7. So the board's received the beeswax, and we're just going to give it 10 minutes to soak up some of that wax and oil, and then we shall buff it with a shop towel, and then it's complete.
Okay.
And just like that, this beautiful board is now complete, and it's ready for its new owner.
Yep, me and my dad have been talking off camera, and we've decided this amazing board is going to be going to one of you lucky viewers.
For your chance to win this beautiful board, all you need to do is simply subscribe to the channel and then comment down below on this video saying, I want that board. The lucky winner will be drawn at random out of the comment section, and we'll box this up and ship it out free of charge to you, ready for you to chop away on it. You better act fast if you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to win this brilliant board.
Competition will end.
So get a rig along. And that's a wrap for this video. If you enjoyed it as much as we did, I think you enjoyed it, didn't you, son?
Sure.
Yeah, he did. If you enjoyed it as much as we did, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Also, if you want to be in the competition, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below.
See you on the next one, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Square surface which we can use we'll run
Boards have been through the planer, and we're going to... Right then.
pros.
My brain just didn't... Right here. So... Oh.